I am Jimmy. You're wearing a pink shirt, but I'm the one who's tickled pink to be to be interviewing my. You're my internet hero. I mean, we're
Oh,
also
that's
friends.
very kind. Yes.
We're also friends, and
Yeah.
for almost 20 years.
Yeah, it's been
We're
a while.
celebrating your brand new book, which I've read several times. It has a very long title. Hold it up so I can read the title without
Oh,
going to
right.
my notes, Jimmy. The Seven Rules of Trust, a blueprint for building things that last by Jimmy Wales, the founder of Wikipedia, and
Right.
also Dan Gardner, who happens to be from Ottawa, Canada, where
Yeah.
I hail from.
Oh, right. Brilliant.
So Mazel Tov, Jimmy.
Thank you.
I'm going to say it's a Wales of a book. I had to say that. Sorry, I apologize. I apologize. Um, let, let's let's
Uh,
let's start off by shouting out a few thanks. First of all, to Dr. Orit Kopel, who has been part of the gang for many years
yeah.
and came up with the idea of having this interview.
Yeah, great.
Um, and of course to Dr. Yossi Vardi, who introduced us in the first place,
Yeah.
along with Jeff Pulver. And we met at a crazy unconference uh, where people invent their own conference. And I remember you with your Wikipedia T-shirt, and you were so unassuming. Somebody came up and asked you what you did at the Wikipedia, and you were very kind. I remember that. So a few words about your new book. I know everybody who's interviewing you. The book came out a month ago. Crown Publishing, part of Penguin Random House, and it's wonderfully done. A few words. I know people want to ask you about Wikipedia, and I want to ask you about Wikipedia too. But let's talk about the book. How did the
Yeah,
book
great.
How did the book happen?
Yeah, great. Well, so I met David Drake, who's the head of Crown, and we were just talking about the idea of me doing a book and so forth, and I just said at the time, I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to do something. I've got a few ideas, things I want to do, but it's very intimidating. Like have a bit of a writer's block getting started. And he said, well, have you read Peter Thiel's book? And I hadn't at that time. And he said, it isn't. In a way, it isn't really a book. It's a series of essays. And he's like, you could just do a series of essays. And that actually unblocked me. I was like, oh, great. Yeah. I mean, I write all the time. That way I don't have to worry about the big picture, the theme, I'll just write some of the things I've learned. And so I started doing that, but it was very quickly apparent that there was a theme and that it was trust. It's something that comes up again and again in my work and in the book. So then I said, okay, great, right. I'm gonna write the seven rules of trust, and sort of wrote the book proposal, sold it, multiple publishers, all of that. We can get into all that, but and then started writing, and then as I wrote,
One second, Jimmy.
yeah,
We're gonna forget to get into it.
yeah.
So let's get into it. Do you have an agent? You have an
Oh
agent?
yeah, 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 yeah. So my agent, William Callahan, had tolerated me for many years as we talked about possibly writing a book and getting started on a proposal and all of that. And then once we did, once I had the proposal, then we sold it to Crown for the U.S. and Canada, Bloomsbury in the U.K. and Commonwealth. We've now it's carried on past that. We sold it. I think the next one was German was the first other non-English language, but now we've sold it in 20 languages around the world. So it's been amazing. So that's great. And so those editions, the German edition is out. The others will follow over the next year. So I'm trying. I'm pushing everybody to please tell me the dates because I want to travel and go in as many of the book launches as I can. It'd be great.
So
Okay.
we're
So
1 month into the publishing, and you've already
yeah.
got 20 deals going.
Yeah, yeah. So that's exciting. Like it's really good. And
That's
so
a good agent. That's a good agent, Jimmy.
that's a good agent. Yeah, that's a very busy agent. I liked him very much. He's at Inkwell. So in any event, when I was doing the writing, then seven rules of trust. So then I started mapping out what are the rules and this and that. And I got to a certain point after about a year where I was just again very stuck. And I was actually stuck at the original point that I had mentioned to David Drake. I'm like, I don't know how to shape this body of material into a proper book. So brought in Dan Gardner to help me, and he's written a couple of New York Times bestsellers, and he's a noted author himself. And it was really wonderful then. So people say, "Oh, was it fun or terrible writing?" Well, it was fun at first, then it wasn't fun. Then I brought in Dan, and it was fun again. So that was great. So Dan really helped me sort of structure the story and tell it. And the other thing he brought to the project is I'm a little bit of a shy person. I mean, you wouldn't know it from do a lot of public speaking and all that, but I am. And um, he's like, yeah, you tell some of the stories, but we need to interview people. I'm like, okay, I don't really know how to interview. So anyway, but we did. So we interviewed, there's a lot of interviews in the book with one of the founders of Airbnb. We interviewed a couple of big journalists, Christiane Amanpour and Tom Friedman. Talked to a lot of Wikipedians. So that added a lot to the book. So I learned a lot actually in writing the book, not just about trust, because we did a lot of research into the academic literature on trust. Frances Fry is one of the greats and interviewed her for the book, and she gave us a lot of sort of additional insight and framework, but also just about the process of writing a book and putting it together. So it was for me, it was a fantastic life experience to go through just the process. And of course, I remember when I was about, I think, 10 or 12 years old, my parents subscribed to Reader's Digest magazine, which you always had around the house, next to the toilet, and that sort of thing. And I remember reading something in there when I was a young kid that said, most people who say they want to write a book actually want to have written a book. And I thought that was very insightful. Even as a kid, I thought that was very insightful. But then I did think, no, I want to write a book. But the truth is, I want to have written a book. I like this stage, like I took all the ideas that have been brewing in my head for a long time. Now they're down on paper, and now to go out and tell people about it and to sort of uh, try and persuade people that this is interesting to look at, and I think it's important for the world because we're in this enormous trust crisis.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Okay, let's now go back to the very beginning of the book. First of all, some of the really amazing people who praised your book, and rightly so. One of my favorites is, of course, my countryman, Professor Yuval Noah Harari, and he said, "If only the whole world could look like Wikipedia."
It's so
And
sweet. Yeah.
that's how I feel about what you and the Wikipedians have done for the world, and we'll get back to that. But there's another thing at the beginning of the book, and that is your what do you call it in English? Your oh, Jimmy, come on, help me. You thank the women in your life.
Oh yes.
Uh, you said
Yeah.
to the
They.
Wikipedia. Well, let me quote you, man. To
Yeah.
the Wikipedians, without whom I could not have written this book. That's clear. And to my girls, whom I could not have written any book.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of the girls is your mom, Doris. I've interviewed her. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
She thinks highly of you, Jimmy. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Very
who-
good.
and one of your girls is in the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
A few words
Yeah.
about the
Kira.
girls.
Yeah. So obviously, my wife, Kate, sort of supported me through the whole process, and then there's a lot about her in the afterword or the yeah after I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere in the book, a little essay about that process. And then yeah, my children. So Kira, who's talked about in the book, and then the two younger ones who live here in London, and actually the eldest of the two. I'm gonna tear up a little bit. It was so sweet. She uh, Ada, she actually, when we had the proof copy, from the publisher, she actually read the book, um, literally read it page by page, and came back to me with like hand page written 2 pages of notes where she asked me questions. A lot of it was references that she didn't understand. Like if I mentioned Watergate at some point, which for adults anyway of our age, we fully know what it happened when I was a kid, but still, we know what Watergate is. She's like, what does this mean, Watergate? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you might have heard about it in school, or you will, but it was a big scandal in the U.S., Watergate, about Richard Nixon, who we talk about in the book. And she also found a typo, and I was alarmed. And she came to me just after the final, like, she had read this. This is like a proof copy. This is the real copy. And I'm like, oh no, and so we rushed to get a real copy and looked at, they had found it. So it had been fixed by the publisher already. But phew, thank goodness. So that was great. But yeah, no, it meant a lot to me that because she said, oh yeah, I want to read it. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. You'll go, oh yeah, some grown-ups book. But no, she really, really read it. So that was great.
And the story about Kira, I assume that you had her full support to write this.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
such a personal story and
yeah.
so heartrending.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it was hard to write, but it was good, and yeah, obviously I ran it by her. She read it. Like, is this okay? I'm just like, I can take it out completely. Like, I've talked about it in the public before. It's known a little bit, but it's going to be more known. And yeah, she was fine with it. I mean, she actually she also gave me good feedback because in one sentence it wasn't clear enough to her that this was a clinical trial, not just a doctor winging it. And I'm like, yeah, it was a proper clinical trial. So yeah, you're right. Let's reword that. So that was good. And yeah, I mean the good news. So the story, just because the people who are listening to us and watching us won't have read the book yet, but of course they're all going to rush out and buy it. But when she was born, it was basically just a few days before I started Wikipedia, and she had a relatively rare illness, and I needed to make a decision, and I rushed to the internet, and the information I could find was just, it wasn't great. It was either academic research, which was, I understood, above my head. I mean, like, you think you can read it, but it's hard to get the nuance and the real meaning of that. Or it was random blog posts or whatever. It just wasn't that helpful. And I was like, I had tried for 2 years at that point, nearly 2 years, to make an encyclopedia called Newpedia, and I was close to giving up because it wasn't working. And I was like, no, you know what? I actually have to double down. Like, life's too short. These things happen. We're going to rip up the plan of Nupedia and we're going to start Wikipedia. So started Wikipedia. It's great. That ended well. Kira, she was completely cured by this amazing doctor in San Diego. His name is in the book, Dr. Rosenfeld, not Rosenberg. That's my friend Mel. But it was fantastic, and so she's completely fine. Yeah, I just she came to visit, and
Wonderful.
she
Well, Jimmy, you
yeah,
know that your ladies,
yeah,
they have a special place in my heart because I wrote a children's book for them.
oh yeah,
I don't know if you remember, called for Jeff Pulver and for you, called
yeah,
Jeff the Mistfish and Jimmy the Whale.
yeah, yeah, Jimmy the Whale,
And
yeah,
so they have
I
a
remember it. Yeah, well, the
they
kids
were
have
always,
it. Yeah, I should have gone up and
oh geez, where are you, Jimmy?
yeah,
Come back, come back. Okay.
yeah,
You should have. No, it's okay. This is today is about you. I just wanted to throw that out. That
yeah,
wonderful memory. So please give them my love.
yeah,
And so let's now segue back to Nupedia and Wikipedia, because in Nupedia you didn't trust anybody really. I mean,
yeah.
Nupedia,
That's
you know,
right.
like
Yeah.
it was for stunkene professors like me. Yeah, Mel, we really
Hmm.
want you to write about something, but there's the seven rules of mistrust. You have to
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you have to fly through seven hoops. And looking back at that, I'm thinking to
yeah,
myself, Jimmy, why would a professor do that for free? And so
yeah,
when you write in Nupedia the story, right, that after a year
yeah,
or two there was only 21 articles, I say to myself, who are the Michigan guys who wrote those articles? That's a lot of,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's
and they get
true.
paid for it. So
Yeah,
what I really want to ask you is this transition, because you had I don't know, it doesn't say how much you had lost uh, supporting Nupedia. I'm assuming
yeah.
a few $100,000.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was in that ballpark for sure.
And
Yeah.
Wikipedia was kind of a last straw, wasn't it? I mean, you were
Yeah.
clutching at things.
No, it really was. It was, because there was this seven-stage review process to get anything published, and I actually don't. You've creatively come up with the seven rules of mistrust. I had not thought or ever said that, but it was a seven-stage process, and it was clear. Like the whole process was, oh, send us your CV and prove you're qualified. It was that sort of thing. We're going to take it and we're going to send it to the most prestigious professors we can find. Then we're going to send it to copy editors, and you're going to have to deal with that. And in the end uh, what worked was, and that transition was really out of that moment of say, well, look, this just isn't working. And even at the beginning of Wikipedia, I thought, well, look, we've got this great group of people on the mailing list, people talking about making an encyclopedia. We've got a few, as you say, who've managed to go through these ridiculous hoops we had put in place. Let's just free ourselves up a little and start writing. And obviously, we're gonna have to lock everything down eventually, but let's just get started and see how it goes. Turns out everything is still very, very open today. Obviously, there's more rules and there's more locking and this and that, but broadly, that that one of the big lessons there is one of the rules of trust is, to get trust, give trust. To say to people, yeah, come and edit. I trust you. Like let's do our best and let's do it in goodwill. And we won't get everything right, and we'll have things we have to debate about and so forth. Actually worked because people do respond well to that. And for me, I think that lesson is one that really resonates for me in many many aspects of life, of business, in even in personal life. I because we've talked about my kids a little, I actually think for parents of teenagers is particularly where trust starts to be an issue, because before that, whatever, the kids are just there and they're not trying to do anything. And but that growth of, from being a child who depends on you for everything and who asks, is it okay if I go to the bathroom, to someone who's beginning to become independent and is on their way to being an independent adult who will make their own decisions. There's a lot of complications in that era around trust. And I really do believe, and I've found in my experience as a dad, one of the things that really does work is to say, but explicitly, to say, oh, you want to do this thing? Okay. Yeah, I trust you, but live up to that trust. And they do, they like to. Not every kid, not every instance, right? And then you have to think about, okay, yeah, I said I trust you, and they said yes, I'll be trustworthy, and then they didn't do the right thing. Okay, then you've got to figure out what are the consequences. But that's fine, that's part of growing up. And that, like, if you treat it that way rather than, I think too many parents are just like, it's all total lockdown and the kids are rebelling left and right. And it's not a magic solution. There's as many personalities as there are people, but broadly I think it's really important to just say, you know what, I trust you, and live up to that trust. And by the way, you can trust me, right? If I said you can do the thing, then later when I change my mind, I'm going to have to say, you know what, I did tell you yes, so I'm going to live up to that. I'm not so sure now, but I'm not changing the rules out from under you. So anyway, I could go on for hours as a complete non-expert, but trying to draw lessons from different parts of life to think about yeah, how to have a slightly better life in some way.
Well, I've known you, and we get to actually meet and have breakfast or coffee once
Yeah,
every
yeah,
seven or 10 years.
yeah.
Um, and for people who don't know Jimmy, you really are a modest, kind person, and you've addressed my classes over the internet.
Yeah.
And last time we had coffee, and I gave you my suspenders, which I regretted because I had to pulled my pants all across London. Um, I don't remember which daughter loved them.
Well, they
But
had music
yeah,
symbols on
yeah,
them. Yeah, and
yeah.
it's Kira the violinist.
Oh,
Yeah,
so my best regards. So tell Kira
yeah,
that that was I trusted her, you see, because I had
yeah.
to walk through London holding my pants up like that. That's how much I love you guys. So you are very modest, and there's a couple of things now I want to ask you. A ton of things. So the transition from Nupedia to Wikipedia, like, did you really, Jimmy? I need to trust you now. Hand on your heart. Did you really think this was going to work? It, it,
I
it.
Well, I always say I'm a pathological optimist, so I always think things are going to work. But I will say initially I had worries. I didn't know for sure. So even though I thought, yeah, let's give it a try, I had a few assumptions that ended up not being correct. Like I assumed that what you would need is some sort of a an editor in chief of the like the American Civil War history section of Wikipedia. You're going to need somebody who's the boss of that area. Turns out that's never even been a question. Like it's completely unnecessary. And those articles are amazing, because it turns out there's a lot of people who are enthusiasts, hobbyists, who have a passion for a particular era in history. There's also a lot of people who are just Wikipedians, and they're good about like, oh, we need good sources and we need to check each other's facts and so forth. So that's important. And um, and I also remember in the very early days, because the early software was super vulnerable to problems like when you've only got say a dozen people working on the website and only 50 pages, somebody could come in the middle of the night and trash the whole site, no problem. Like it wouldn't take much effort. And I would worry. I would wake up in the middle of the night and go and check on the site. No, it's all fine. And then I pretty quickly I noticed, oh yeah, there's this guy in Australia. And when I'm asleep, he's awake and he's on. He's reverted some vandalism. He's looking after things. And I'm like, oh wow, like actually a community can actually do this. Like if enough people are looking out for it, and we see this in society. Like a lot of the things that really work about society, they really work when people just have a basically a good attitude, like decency. Like I think we all pretty much trust. Um, if you're at a sporting event and you see a kid, a little kid, 3 years old, and they're crying, uh, and they look a little lost. I mean, people are they'll oh, hold on, like okay, there's the security people. Let's see. They're going to look after a little kid because people are decent, and that's kind
Jamie,
of what works.
okay, you grew up in a small city
Mm,
with a wonderful family, and you went to school. I'm saying this because I've written a children's book about you,
yeah, yeah.
and you studied in one of the smallest schools in the world, and you are a trustful and trustworthy person.
Mm,
But time and again, Wikipedia is assailed. I don't want to get into this recent dispute because I'm Jewish and live in Israel, and
yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't think I can be too objective. But every once in a while, there is some group who's assailing Wikipedia,
Mm,
especially the neutrality
mm-hmm,
so I know that you didn't change and you didn't block, but you kind of put your foot down every couple of years and say, this is not Wikipedia.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, I do think like one of the values of Wikipedia is neutrality, neutral point of view. In the early days, I said non-negotiable. And what does neutrality mean? Obviously, that's a tough philosophical subject in many cases, so you've got to grapple with it. There's no magic answer. For me, one of the biggest things that it means, and this is where I think in some cases we've fallen down at various times, and this sort of the recent statements I made were around like I think we can do better here, is the question of do you say it in the voice of Wikipedia or do you just report on what other people have said? And so where and
Lost you again for a second, Jimmy.
qualify it,
Come
you can,
back.
yep. There are plenty of things you can just say. I'll just repeat in case I was the one cutting out and no one heard me. Plenty of things you can say without qualifying it. Paris is a city in France. You don't write, well, according to this authority, Paris is a city. That's not controversial. There's universal consent.
No, we're having some issues. Come
And
back,
and
Jimmy.
oh, when there are objections, I'm just looking at my internet here. I hope it's good. I'm going to switch a little bit. It should be
Because
seamless.
all the bandwidth is going to Wikipedia, you see.
Yeah. So when if there is a legitimate controversy, right, and there are different points of view and different things could be said about it, then Wikipedia should always refrain from saying. And that doesn't mean we're completely agnostic about everything. You don't say, oh, the moon. Some say rocks, some say cheese. Who knows, right? That's not neutrality. But you can say, you know, the scientific observations say this and so forth. And, controversial political issue. You can say, this UN committee has said this, and the German government said the opposite, that, and this and that, and you weigh it up, and you get a picture. And even it's not a magic solution because you can be really one-sided or not one-sided in how you choose those things. But at the very minimum, like the very first step is to say, like, it's not for Wikipedia to say, right? And so one of the ones that I talk about in the book that I do think we were very, very good about. I'm not sure exactly what I'm about to say might not exactly be in the book, but we talk about the general area. Is okay if you look back at the COVID, the pandemic era, like one of the really interesting open questions is, etc. Like, what is the efficacy of masks in a public health setting? So I'm going to give my perspective, which I think is pretty balanced, but it's what you'll read in Wikipedia, which is to say, well, in a hospital setting, worn by professionals, properly trained, good quality N95 masks, changed in regular, there is good evidence that it reduces transmission. When I would get on the tube here in London and see people wearing it half off, half on, on the bus and things like that, was it really helping or was it not helping? Yeah, it's a little, the evidence, as you might think, is a little bit mixed, right? And so those are the facts, right? And unfortunately, that's one of those questions that got so politicized that if you were in some parts of the US, even if you were wearing a mask, that was a sign I am left wing. And if you were refusing to wear a mask, that's a sign I'm right wing. And it's like, no, actually, there is a fact based question here. And Wikipedia shouldn't say, well, the only people against masks are anti science, therefore we're going to say masks always work. No, to say, like, actually, it's complicated, right? And here's the evidence for this, here's the evidence for that. And it's not for Wikipedia to tell you, it's for Wikipedia to help you grapple with that argument in a good way. And so that's where I think we ought to be. And yeah, and none of these things happen by magic. I mean, occasionally I try to stay out of things as much as possible because it's not for me to say what Wikipedia should say, but it is for me to remind people, you know what? One of the reasons that people trust us, one of the reasons that we've become successful, is the sense that broadly, while Wikipedia may have certain biases of our age, of our era, and that's always going to be the case, like that this is the way the world is. Like, would Wikipedia at some point in the past talked about leeches as being good in medicine? Well, it might have, because that was the received wisdom of the day. Hopefully, I would say, as soon as that started being challenged, it wouldn't be in the voice of Wikipedia. It would be like, well, here's a traditional thing and this is what has been believed, however there's some new evidence that suggests that that's great, like that's what we should be doing. So that's kind of where I am, and I do think for Wikipedia it's really important. So, and one of my complaints, and this is definitely in the book, to Elon Musk, who likes to call us Wokepedia, which is just not true. Like, I know lots of Wikipedians, and yeah, Wikipedia is not perfect, but the idea that we've been taken over by crazy left-wing activists is just overblown. Like, that's not the case. But one of the best answers to that isn't to say, oh, well, my complaint to Elon is, like, if you go around saying, yeah, Wikipedia's been taken over by crazy activists, it has two bad effects. One, kind and thoughtful, intellectually curious conservatives are being told, don't go to Wikipedia, it's full of crazy activists and they'll just yell at you. And your crazy left wing activists will be like, yay, Wikipedia, our new home. And then we have to put up with them or deal with them and get rid of them. Like, it's hard. What we really want is people of intellectual diversity in a spirit of the enlightenment, spirit of let's be curious together. Oh, I don't agree with you about this. Okay, that's okay. Like, we can still talk. We're still human beings. Maybe we can't agree about what the correct answer is, but we can agree what the debate is about. And again, we won't use the voice of Wikipedia. We'll start to explain, what are people fighting about? And that's enormously valuable because,
Yeah.
to the extent that our media has become more polarized, we need to play that role.
Jimmy, I'm worried now that we're running out of time. So
Mm,
I'm going to segue to media. So,
yeah,
this is, I think, it's germane. I just said you devoted a chapter to the Reddit, tell me I'm wrong,
yeah, yeah.
which
Change my view. Yeah,
yeah,
lovely.
which I love. But let's go to the media. You were at some stage so pissed off that you and Ori set up this
Mm,
Wiki Tribune.
yeah,
In a couple of sentences, why did you do it? Didn't you realize it was going back to Nupedia and that it
yeah.
was not going to fly?
Yeah, so Wiki Tribune was an effort, really an exploration to say, like something's gone really wrong. Like the media is not neutral. It's either left or right, and too often, not all media, by the way. There's a big scandal about the BBC at the moment. I think, despite that, the BBC broadly does a pretty good job. They've got their problems like everybody. But what I realize is
The,
like,
the,
so
the,
first,
the Jews of the world would take an issue with that, but I'll
yeah,
let
yeah,
that
yeah,
pass.
yeah, 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 no, yeah, fair
I'll
enough.
let that pass.
No,
We got
but I would actually still I would defend it in this way, while acknowledging what you're saying, which is to say they have blind spots, and that's one of their blind spots. That's one of the areas they haven't been getting it right, but on lots of areas they are largely fine. So it's a problem. Like they need to sort themselves out. But that's a different. We could have a
okay.
whole hour on that, but
Jamie, yeah, I'm trying to
but
stay away from that.
yeah, let's yeah,
In two sentences, why did you
yeah,
do Wiki Tribune?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So
I think the world have already,
yeah, yeah.
why did you
Yeah.
cease?
So Wiki Tribune was an effort to find ways that we could get journalists and citizen reporters to work together. And actually, what happened and what I learned from it is, first of all, the problem with journalism and media doesn't rest with journalism, actually. It rests with the broader environment. So the undermining of the business model of journalism, the rise of clickbait headlines, just trying to get eyeballs, trying to get traffic, ad driven, etc. That's where the problem lies, which is why I've segued into Trust Cafe and experiment in social networking. And can we have more trusted people who are highlighted in social media rather than the most viral people and the most hostile people and so on? Still experimenting. I'm always curious, always trying to learn. But yeah, Wiki Tribune did work because one of the reasons is, as it turns out, most people can't do citizen journalism, not because, as journalists sometimes think, that they're the only people who can understand and explain the world to people because they're trained journalists, but because they've got the time to go out and get the story. And most people, you can write a Wikipedia entry about some obscure fact of history, and you can do it over the course of weeks or months because you dabble along and you read a book and you come back and you add something. News happens today and then it's finished tomorrow, and you need to drop everything one day and go out and get the story, and people just don't have the time. Even if they have a passion for that idea and they would love to do it, they've got a different job and so on. So I've come to the conclusion that citizen journalism, in the sense of that straight fact reporting, it's just not possible to do without people who can devote full time to it. So that's why that didn't work. And that anybody listening is probably like, well, Jimmy, that's obvious. I'm like, okay, well, it is to me now, but it wasn't at the time.
So as far as I'm concerned, I cannot trust journalism, period.
Mm.
I have trouble trusting everything. I studied with a student of Karl Popper. I don't trust anything. I don't trust science. I don't trust Karl Popper. I don't trust myself. That's just a thing. So here's the other thing I wanted to ask. Shakespeare wrote 400
Mm.
years ago in Twelfth Night. Some people are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them.
Mm.
Which category are you, Jimmy Wales?
Well, I mean, after you've said so many times how unassuming I am, I'm going to have to protest against the great piece. But I feel in many ways my role, just in the sense that it never occurred to me as a boy from Alabama that, I would have this kind of pretty heavy responsibility to sort of say, okay, like let's remember what we're doing here. Like my role within the Wikipedia world is, as much as anything, just a coach, a reminder. I compare it to a royal type of role, but not like Henry VIII royal, more like Queen Elizabeth II, i.e., people listen to me sometimes, and my job is to remind people of the values and who we are, and sort of help provide a bit of identity. Not,
Wikipedians cherish you, but they also have all kinds of royalty nicknames for you. You know, Sun God,
well, not,
God King,
yeah,
and
not really, not really. Yeah, yeah.
but
They
no,
also, yeah.
I,
But
I,
yeah, and I do think, it's like, I think for all of us, the opportunity to do something, make something a little bit better happens all the time, and we just have to roll with it and live up to it.
you did me a journalist thing. Now you didn't answer my question.
Oh, I think
Born,
I did pick
oh,
thrust upon me. It was thrust
okay,
upon me. Yeah.
okay, great,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
I didn't, yeah, I
sorry,
didn't seek
sorry
it.
if I
Yeah.
missed that. Sorry if I missed
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Which brings me to page 153. Okay.
Oh, right.
I'm not going into this thing of calling you the founder, the co-founder, the semi-founder. For me, you are the amazing, marvelous guy behind Wikipedia. That's, you're the father, the driving force. Um,
Mm,
so now on page 153,
mm.
you talk about Larry Sanger,
Yeah,
Dr. Larry Sanger, and you say that Larry does not get enough credit.
yeah.
Uh,
I
can
think,
you can you give me a few more sentences, and then I'm going to
yeah.
ask you about grade three.
Yeah, no, I think this is really important because there has been this sort of traditional co-founder founder, which I think is a silly debate. I stormed out of a podcast because the guy kept needling me about it, and I'm like, literally, I don't care. Like, it's not important. I should have stayed a minute longer.
I did see that, Jimmy. I
Yeah,
did
I
see that.
should have stayed a minute longer to.
I was worried you were going to run out on me too.
No, 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 no. It's completely fine. I should have stayed a little. It was his hostility that was bothering me, but I should have stayed a little longer to say this part, which is like, like that's actually irrelevant. Larry doesn't get enough credit for his early work, for his ideas. I think he's wrong. He's got some recommendations for Wikipedia today and some complaints. I don't agree with them all. A couple of them are kind of interesting. Some of them I think he doesn't really know Wikipedia today, and so I wouldn't think he's identified some things that he would change that aren't actually the problem. So, there's that. But I just think for me, like he wrote this. It's called the what is it? Nine Theses after Martin Luther, and basically people are wanting me to respond, and I said, well, look, he very clearly said he spent months working on these, and even though I disagree and I've got some things I could say, it would be disrespectful for me to just one afternoon dash off a reply. Like I want to grapple with them. I want to think about them. I want the community to think about them and reject the ones that we think don't work. But I mean, for me it's always one of the components of trust is when we get a complaint, you have to you have to grapple with it. You have to take it seriously. And sometimes the grappling's very quick. It's like if someone says, "Well, Wikipedia is completely biased because it doesn't say that the moon is made of cheese." Okay, let me think about that. Yeah, okay, fine. We'll just have to agree to disagree. But in other cases, I think you can say like, "Hold on. Okay, what could we do better? How can we get to more consensus? How can we what can we do to improve? What are we getting wrong?" Because there'll always be something to improve. And if you lose that spirit of desiring to improve, then you really are lost.
But Jimmy, okay, and from what I've read, and you correct me, Larry
Mm.
was you hired him. He was hugely
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
important in getting Nupedia defined and going,
Yeah,
and also in getting Wikipedia defined and going. Let's now leave his debate
yeah.
on what Wikipedia should have been aside. There is, I have an invention that the co-inventor was a guy who disagreed with me,
Mm.
and to show him what a jerk he was, I did an addition. Actually, my master's student did an additional experiment. Then that became the invention. So whether I think he invented it or not, he was on the path.
Yeah.
So my question is, Larry, whether he eventually got it wrong or backwards, he made it happen. Sometimes in an opposite direction, but so what?
Yeah, I mean, when people ask me what I would do differently, one of the things I say is it's really hard to answer that question because even the things that we did wrong, we learned from. Like Nupedia was, in one sense, Nupedia was a 2 year colossal waste of time.
Yeah.
In another sense, it wasn't because
But,
we tried
but,
something, we learned, we
but
thought, we
Jimmy,
had conversations.
if you go over the lives and tribulations of any inventor or
Mm,
scientist, right? It's always like that.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
get it wrong, 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 and then oh my goodness,
yeah, yeah.
my
No,
goodness,
exactly,
look,
exactly.
look at this. So and the other thing is, and this is really important for trust. Okay, when I read your book, you said you don't want me to tell you what I did in third grade. And I do because I never told people what I did in second grade. So now that I have you, I'm gonna divulge, Jimmy, that I in
Yeah.
second grade I cheated on a spelling quiz
Mm.
and I didn't remember how to spell Shirley. And I looked over at David Rose's in
Oh,
second grade.
yeah. Wow.
What the hell did you do in third grade? Give us a now's a good
Oh,
time.
yeah, that's a good time. Well, there's a great story in my family. So this is confession time, public confession time. Although my mom already knows about this, so we're okay. But my sister and I had been learning about centrifugal force, and we had my sister and I, who's roughly my size, my age, we're a year apart, and our little sister Deanna, we had this cot, and I was convinced that if we swung it back and forth and then around like that, oop, I'm going to pull my microphone out. That if we went fast enough, she would be centrifugal force. And we tried it with a stuffed animal, and we practiced, and it was good. We could flip, and we're like, great, Deanna, time for a ride. We shoved her in. Of course, she fell out, but not only she fell out and hit her head on a nail. Nothing serious. She's fine, but made a little cut in her head and blood everywhere. And we rushed in a panic and got mom and rushed her to it was a big panic moment. It was all fine. It's a tiny scratch. If you get a little cut on your head, it bleeds a lot. And it's because it's your head. Everybody's freaking out. Anyway, some years later, we did fess up to mom as adults. We're like, yeah, mom, you know what happened? Listen to this. Mom was like, what? Deanna cut her head. I don't remember that at all. We're like, oh, all these years we thought it was trauma. But anyway, so that's what I did. I was probably in fourth grade at the time. So
So
there we
Jimmy,
go.
now I can say that I really trust you.
Very good.
Is there anything, I was so excited that I forgot to add that this is an interview for the New Books Network.
Yeah.
And I host the children's channel, and I
Hmm.
asked them for special permission to do this interview with you, and
Great.
they kindly acquiesced.
Great.
And is there anything that I haven't asked you?
No, it's good. I mean, I think for me, one of the things about the book is it's pretty wide ranging. So we've done a good job of talking about various different aspects of trust and so forth. Often in interviews, I end up talking a lot about global issues and politics and Donald Trump and this and that and the other. But actually, the book is a little bit. It's a blueprint. It's supposed to be practical because you or I, no one, we can't take action to say, oh, there's a huge problem. Trust in journalism has fallen to an all time low. Let's fix that. Well, I don't know. What do I do? Like, I can't fix that. But what I can do is think about my organization. I can think about my work. I can think about my relationships and think, how do I build a culture of trust? And that does infect the rest of the world. And we can get back to a culture of trust, I believe.
Okay, that's a great way to finish off.
Lovely.
And Jimmy, I still do want to have breakfast in London with you one of
Yeah,
these years.
London or Israel next time I'm there.
Okay,
So
well,
great.
let me
Fantastic.
know. And really, the book is remarkable.
Thank you.
I read it several times.
Great.
But
Me
I read a
too.
PDF.
Me too.
Yeah, you've
I
read it
did
several times.
I did the audiobook. That was a great experience. We were talking a little earlier about the authorship aspect of it. And I read the audiobook myself. I really enjoyed it. There was a guy on the other end of the line. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name, but he's an actor. He was in Star Wars. He's in his 80s now, and he had this amazing, most beautiful voice. And so he would coach me through lines. Like he would listen and he would say, ah, you read this line this way, but when I read it, I thought you meant it that way. And I was like, yes, you're right. I did. And so then I would reread it with his intonation. I'm like, "Ah, it's so good." So it was a lovely, and it was also the first time I, obviously, as we wrote, I read chapter by chapter. At the end, when we finished, I read the entire thing cover to cover for final publication. But it's the first time I'd read it out loud, and it was a good experience. So if people like audiobooks, I read it myself. So hopefully,
In
if you don't
in
find my
in,
voice too annoying, you might want to get that one.
in less than 6 hours. I mean, you can actually sit on
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
a plane
yeah. It took
and
a little longer. It took a little longer to make it, but not. It took over 2 days, sort of 5 hours a day. It was good.
fantastic. And Jimmy, I
Great.
hope that perhaps there's some publisher that is interested in the book of your childhood in
Oh yeah, yeah,
Wikipedia,
yeah. It's great. Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
I hope
You.
will be
Yeah,
published.
I don't usually give people access to my mom, but I let you talk to my mom, so that was great.
It's a matter of trust, Jimmy.
Yeah, it's a matter of trust. Who knows what dirt she spilled on me, but it'll be good.
It was good dirt.
Great, fantastic.
She loves you, and it's been great. And thank
Yeah,
you on
great,
behalf of
great. Thank
the
you.
billions of people
Oh,
that
that's very kind.
use this wonderful
Oh,
invention that you.
that's very kind. Thank you. Okay.
So, Jimmy, thanks. Be well, and run off to
Yeah, yeah.
your
Next
next
thing.
stuff.
Great.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.
1 second, I forgot to say who I
Oh,
was.
oh,
I should say who I am. I'm
yeah.
Mel
You.
Rosenberg,
Yeah,
and I am, oh my goodness, what am I? I'm the host of the Children's Literature Channel,
yeah,
outside of my channel, outside
yeah.
of my comfort zone. And I've been with Jimmy Wales, and we've been talking, who is the father of Wikipedia. Um, and um, and we've been talking about his wonderful new book. Now, Hank, hold it up for everybody to see.
Oh, right.
Jim, hold your book up.
There we
Yeah.
go. Yep.
The seven rules of trust, a blueprint for building things that last,
Great.
by the one and only Jimmy Wales. Thanks
Great.
a million.
Thanks, Mel. Yep. Bye.